I mean, I know it was the 1860s and everything, but did a doctor really just suggest that a person might be photosynthetic? Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. As part of my coverage of the 2022 Toronto International Film Festival, today I'm going to be talking about the 2022 mystery drama, The Wonder, which will be released on Netflix on November 16th. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. The Wonder stars Florence Pugh, Kíla Lord Cassidy, and Tom Burke, and was directed by Sebastián Lelio. Based on Emma Donoghue's 2016 novel of the same name, it tells the story of nurse, Lib Wright, who investigates the case of a girl who has not eaten for 4 months. A good story can capture your interest. A mystery or inexplicable idea can be a compelling force, driving your need to find out more. This has always been the case, both in art and reality. In art, that compelling story idea can drive you to read a book or watch a movie. In reality, it can drive you to click on an outrageous headline or launch your own investigation. In either case, a good or intriguing story has the potential to become a spectacle. It can evolve into something much more involved than it ever originally was, and take on a life of its own. In real life, this can be damaging, but in art, it can be transformative. In film, the spectacle of a story can make all the difference. The idea and story premise of The Wonder certainly made all the difference for me, at least when it came to choosing to watch the film at TIFF. I've never read the book, and was only vaguely aware of the phenomenon of the fasting girls from that era, but the premise was a compelling one. This is a quiet, frequently slow and dry film, but the mystery at its core was an intriguing one. It's set up as an investigation, and we follow one of the primary investigators rather than the subject of the investigation. It's a strange story, and surely every audience member will have their theories once the mystery is established, but this film's strength lies with its ability to keep you invested. You want to know what's happening. Is this real? Is it a hoax? And in either case, how is it being done? Now, I'm not going to tell you anything about the why or how, but I will say that the mystery doesn't remain a mystery. This isn't one of those ambiguous films that never explains anything and leaves it all up to the viewer's interpretation. No, we and the characters eventually do learn the exact what and how of the mystery. Unfortunately, this comes too early in the film. Once the mystery is effectively solved, the story switches gears to focus on the ramifications of those answers. But this is nowhere close to as interesting or compelling as the investigatory portion of the film. It's still just as quiet and slow, but now lacks its hook, instead slowly dragging on as a remarkably frustrating story, only held up by its cinematography and strong performances. All of the performances here are decent, including a powerful turn by newcomer Kíla Lord Cassidy, but the standout is definitely Florence Pugh. She's no stranger to period pieces like this, and is really able to embody the character of Lib Wright. Although professional and fairly reserved, she brings a skeptical and driven quality to the character throughout the investigation. But we can see the pain and frustration simmering just underneath, even before we ever learn anything about the character's past. So when her priorities shift after solving the mystery, it feels appropriately rooted in the character's personality, rather than just a sudden change for the sake of the story, as we see with some of the other characters. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a review of The Wonder that doesn't at least mention the film's framing device, so I've gotta talk about it. Rather than on the moors of 19th century Ireland, this film starts and ends on a soundstage. This film's soundstage, to be precise. To be honest, I initially thought I had somehow wandered into the wrong theater. Voiceover narration pontificates on the concept of stories and our belief in them, before panning to the film's first scene, already in progress. From a thematic standpoint, you could argue that the framing device is relevant, because this is a story about spectacle and the dangers of blind faith and only believing what you're told, but it's just super clunky, making it hard to get immersed in the story at the beginning and taking you right out of it at the end. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is Florence Pugh. She has a long track record of good performances, including in period pieces, so this probably isn't really much of a surprise. She definitely plays to her type, but delivers exactly what you expect from her. She's the main character here, and in that role, she portrays and represents the audience's skepticism and drive for answers. There's a darkness that comes through at times, and this character is more layered than you might initially expect, but Pugh makes it work. By the time things really start to unfold in the story, she's among the only truly believable characters, whose actions don't feel like they just came out of the blue. Pro number two has gotta be the technical elements. The story itself may leave something to be desired, but The Wonder is a well-crafted film. The cinematography here is great. There's a bit of period dullness to the color palette, but the expansive outdoor scenes capture the setting well, as do the frequently claustrophobic interiors. Production design and costumes also get the job done here. In addition to the visuals, the sound design and score really add to the atmosphere, enhancing the mystery and the uncomfortable nature of the story and its various relationships. On the con side, the biggest issue is the pacing. So, the pacing might not truly capture the entirety of my issue here, but it's the closest thing I can come to a one-word header. This is a story that begins really strong. It's slow and not exciting in the traditional sense, but the investigation is gripping. Unfortunately, it hurts itself by providing us with answers way too early. The pace suddenly drags as the story loses steam without that mystery and our desire for answers driving the film. It becomes frustrating rather than compelling, which is a shame considering the promise that it held. Con number two is the framing device. This might be more of a minor issue when looking back on the film as a whole, but it's really awful when you're actually watching the movie. If you go into this film knowing anything about its premise, you might think you're watching the wrong movie at first. This begins and ends on a soundstage. It tries to make a thematic point about stories and our inherent desire to believe in them despite contrary evidence, but it comes across confusing before you see the film and heavy-handed after you see it. Really, it just makes immersion difficult. Before I give you my rating recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying any of the films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give The Wonder 3 out of 5 paws. The Wonder is a wonderful looking and technically well-crafted period piece. It's got an intriguing premise and a strong performance by Florence Pugh, but the pacing and story's shifting focus all but ensure that this film runs out of steam before its end. I would recommend The Wonder to people who are interested in religious mysteries. Although its themes can be expanded to broader concepts, the core of the story does revolve around religion, and more specifically, blind faith. Even if that isn't super interesting to you, if you tend to appreciate the technical aspects of period pieces, or if you're just generally a Florence Pugh fan, I think this movie will still have at least something to offer you. If you liked The Wonder, I would recommend Ace in the Hole. Although a very different type of story, this is another movie that explores the concept of story spectacle, blindly believing what you're told, and the lengths that people are willing to go for their own sake. If you liked the direction here and are interested in another film with great performances, you should check out Disobedience. This was Lelio's first English language film and is another movie with strong religious tones. And if you liked the writing here, you might want to watch Room. Like The Wonder, Room was also based on a book written by Emma Donoghue and focuses on a child in danger. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen The Wonder? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about an unexplained phenomenon? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.